Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. What I'm trying to do today is figure out part of this hoard of XR80s that I have floating around the house. And to that end, the engine that was most likely to start and run was the eBay engine, so I just smashed that on. Right, this is the $150 delivered eBay engine that has the welded kickstarter and the underneath where the foot pegs bolt to the engine, that's a little bit stripped out. Anyway, the bike I bolted it all to, this is an XR80 that's been in the Hoard for a while. A buddy of mine who lives up Rhinebeck, New York way, he used to ride this up and down the power lines and all back in the day. Back when he was a kid before he went into the military. So anyway, he let it sit around. I guess his sons had it for a while, and when he got back to it to give to his grandchild, believe it or not, he found the engine seized, and he didn't want to futz around with it, so he made me a decent deal, and I got it. The engine for it is that one, right? And unfortunately, from sitting around, it got scored. Right, it has pits. Anyway, so I smashed the engine on. I filled it up with oil. This has a points ignition. So quite honestly, there's only one wire to plug in. And there it is. This wire also goes out to the points and stator. Only one wire is coming off of that. And that's probably for the turn off. I didn't bother looking at it that closely. I found one wire to plug in. I got spark, and I said all was good. This is a China carb, and I need to do something with the choke lever. See how it's hitting the body there. So they have more complicated bends. So I either have to swap with that or start doing some bends. And also when it came to putting the top on the carburetor, this top has a complicated bend, and I couldn't get the leaded piece of the the piece that grabs onto the slide. I couldn't get that around the turn, so I ended up using the other top of the carburetor. Carburetors for these things are cheap. There's two ways of doing it. If you go to Musty One's channel, he just brought back to life an SL125. Nice looking bike, by the way. Anybody who has space in their Hoard and could cut a deal with him, that's a real nice bike to add to your collection. Unless he might already have it sold, I don't know. Especially if he could get your paperwork on it. You know, SL's street legal 125. That's just a nice bike for beating around town. Anyhow, he goes through the trouble of soaking them and rebuilding them, and when he did that, he found on the once again, this 125 is one of his more recent videos, that the float leaked and inhaled a bunch of the solvent, and obviously that's not going to work well. Your float can't sink because then your engine's going to flood. I haven't hooked up the clutch or the gears or anything like that because I'm trying to see if it'll start. You can see it hasn't. I checked to see if it sparks, but from the oil on here and all, you can see that it hasn't been started yet. I can't choke it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little, wait, a little go juice. Really not the best thing to do to a fresh engine. You know what? Let's give it a little go juice that way. That's just gasoline. Let's see how she does. Make sure the throttle's closing. Once again, it would suck to have the engine run away and blow up. I guess I can just grab the wire. I got a little bit of little valve noise, but she sounds great. Really sounds good. I got an exhaust leak here. Hear it? Sounds like there's a bolt out or something. See the oil's beginning to burn off. But I got like no smoke. Got nothing coming out the pipe. That's nice. Yeah, she looks like I got a good one. You know, when I saw the engine come in, he was calling it parts, but I was just looking at it and I said, you know, that's a really nice looking engine. You know, to get around the stripped out bolts on the bottom, Tim had this on his engine, and the way this is welded on, right? The foot pegs are welded on. This piece is a homemade, not the nice B, not the skid plate. The way it works is you have these, the foot pegs, and you have this skid plate. You don't have these extra bars. So, looks like it'd be easy enough to build, right? Quite honestly, all you need is a bar with a bend on it. One can put the flange on both sides, right? So 290s, and then you just either cut it off and weld a flat to it like they did on this side, or do another bend and smash it. I would have a tendency to cut it off and weld the flat. Yeah, well, you can tell it uses hardly any gas. The only fuel in it is what I put in the bowl. But yeah, if she was going to be old smoky, it'd be smoking by now. Boy, it looks like that engine for $150 was a steal. I'm pleased. So, I don't remember what I paid Tim for this bike. I don't have. Normally, if it starts going over $200, I start remembering and I start getting cranky. So it was probably under $250. And I got his trashy motor. Even if I build this engine up against this bike, right? That gives me, let's call it $200 for the bike to start with a number, $150 for the engine, then the carburetor. I still have to seal up the gas tank. I think, yeah, I have some more of this red coat left. I can have this thing completely running for under $500, and then once again, I build the expensive engine against this one. Boy, it uses no gas. It just keeps running and running and running. Which means for this bike, I got $50 into it, and I could throw Tim's engine at this bike, and you know, a couple of the other parts engines. I'm going to be in decent shape. I should have both these bikes running for under $300 each. That'd be nice. Yeah, there's the faintest, I don't know if you guys can see it, is the faintest, just a little bit of white. Yeah, I made sure I filled it with oil. Yeah, I think you guys can see just a touch of white, but that might be because the pipe's getting hot enough to burn off. Well, folks, I'm happy. Are you happy? Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and please get out there and enjoy all your days. Bye now, folks.